Welcome back to my little channel. Now, you may have noticed the forest is out again. We're going to talk about the environment. Yay! It's kind of worrying that we have to keep talking about stuff like this. Not because it's not important or because it's weird. No. It's worrying that we have to keep talking about this stuff, not to try and convince people, but to prove people wrong. So what are we trying to prove them wrong on? Well, obviously, this whole environment is under attack narrative. Oh, the world is warming. Oh, are you afraid already? The thing is, the world may be warming. I'm not going to deny that, because the world has always been either warming or cooling. That's what the world has always done. Hell, we're still in an ice age. I know people don't like it when I say it, but it is true. We're in an interglacial period, and we still have ice on the continents and on the poles, which means we're still technically in an ice age. Does that then mean that the world isn't warming? No, of course not. There's always a period of ice and there's a period of no ice. The period of no ice, by the way, has been 2.6 million years ago. So you're forgiven if you can't remember that. It's silly, but at the same time, we're in an interglacial and we're in an ice age. Theoretically speaking, we could be at the end of an ice age. We're not, by the way. This is just theoretically speaking. But here's the funny thing. The world is warming. Okay, possible. It's never been so warm. Yeah, no, that is provably wrong. Because a study finds that the Canadian Arctic was 1.2%, no, not 1.2, 1.22% warmer during the medieval era. Okay, that sounded wrong. Anyway, you get what I mean. You can read it. It's right here on top. I'll highlight it. So 1 degree or 2 degrees warmer in the medieval times. Now, it's kind of funny because I have read into it a little bit and I'm not a scientist, so I'm not going to pretend to know everything face down, hands down. But they look into the ice, and within the ice they can tell the way the ice has frozen up. Not only that, but they can also find certain elements within the air which are an indication of the rough temperatures of that period. Not just from the ice, by the way, but go read them. I mean, links to this article will be provided downstairs, and in that article you can see that there are links to other stuff. It's very interesting. I mean, is the world warming? Yeah, probably it is. There are people who have predicted that the coming years we will see cooling again. This has something to do with the Milankovitch cycles. It's a astrophysics thing, because our path following the sun, sometimes we're closer, sometimes we're a little bit further away. Apparently we're going to have a period where we are slightly further away from the sun again. Anyway, not important. So here's the thing that I find most interesting, and it starts right at the beginning. Temperatures inferred for the past 150 years at Lake JR01 are cooler than those inferred for the mid-Holocene prior to... Okay, well, you can read the rest, sorry. So basically, the lake's temperature now are cooler than what they were. So if we are now seeing unprecedented heating, how come we've seen higher temperatures than now? Although biological production increased in the last 150 years, the reconstruction temperatures do not indicate a warming during this time. No, because we've gotten better at growing food. And another thing, the world is greening up. Funny enough, because more carbon dioxide in the air means that plants find it easier to grow because there is more plant food. Carbon dioxide obviously being one of the plant foods. That's another story. I'll probably do a video on that one. But I found an article basically explaining that the greening of the earth is 70% to do because of the higher CO2 in the atmosphere, which is a very interesting thing. They don't say it's just CO2, no, but 70% of it is. And now I know there are people who will say, yeah, but the world is getting warmer and therefore plants grow better. Yeah, funny enough, no. How do we know, by the way, that this is indeed a question of no? Well, the Sahara is greening up, or at least around the edges. It's getting greener faster and faster. And let's be honest, the Sahara might be also increasing in temperature, but they were pretty high to start with. So if a higher temperature is the only thing that did it, it should have been green years ago. It wasn't. Anyway, sidetracking. The Canadian Arctic Baffin Island had a 5% warmer summer temperature between 10,000 and 8,000 years ago than now. They didn't have a lot of industrial production in those areas, I'm sure. Somehow the polar bears managed to survive this sea ice-free period. So the idea that polar bears die because there is no ice is one of the main pushing points that we've been seeing from the ecological terrorists, but it's based on nothing. Obviously it's based on nothing. It's not as if ice bears only eat ice or something. I mean, yeah, obviously they hunt in ice, they live in ice, but yeah, if they can't feed off one thing, they'll feed off another thing. Earlier this year, another Canadian Arctic reconstruction was published indicating that the temperatures were about 2 to 4.5% warmer than today throughout the last 8,500 years. See, only 3 records mark temperatures colder than they are now. We're not at the warmest point in time. We're not at the coolest point in time either. But temperatures on Earth have always gone up and down, up and down, up and down. To deny this reality is more than stupid. To pretend it's because of carbon dioxide is absolutely dishonest. It's okay that we don't understand shit. I mean, that's the whole idea about science. We try to figure out why things are the way they are. It starts with recognizing the way things are. And once we start recognizing, we can look at different ways. Okay, why is it like this? What are factors that influence this? Do we understand them all? And if the answer to that question is no, that doesn't mean that we don't do science right. It means that we still don't understand it. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, I've been asking people who claim to know what they're talking about, okay, explain to me this. If CO2 is the main driver of global warming, how? How is CO2 the main driver in global warming? And then you get the standard rhetoric, well, whoa, greenhouse gas. Yeah, okay. Methane is a greenhouse gas. Water vapor is a greenhouse gas. How is CO2 a more effective greenhouse gas than either of those two? Well, not a single coherent answer. Now, mind you, I haven't spoken to any environmental scientists, obviously, but the ones that I have spoken to are very good at defending that the science says this is true, therefore it must be true, without knowing what the science is indeed saying. Now, this might sound silly, but years ago, a flat earther once tried to prove his point that the earth is flat because You can't prove it's not. And obviously then one can easily say, oh, you're a flat earther, therefore you're stupid. Nah. I didn't. I looked into what he said and read up on it and tried to figure out, okay, well, yeah, you can say that, but shouldn't I then be able to say, okay, you know what? This is how you can calculate the Earth is indeed not flat. And I did. And I'm not a scientist. I'm not a geologist. I'm not a mathematician. Hell, I'm not even a linguist, apparently. And I found out how this worked. And I can explain to people, okay, this is what you can do. And I know that people can say, well, I've got a phone, you've got a phone, we can call each other. If it's dark out at your end and light out at my end, boom! Yeah, you know, that is true too. But there is another way to do it. You can actually calculate the circumference of the Earth based on, well, measuring. Eratosthenes did this several thousand years ago. The thing, what I'm trying to say is, if you want to claim something, try to understand it. How come then that none of these people claiming... How come then that none of these people claiming carbon dioxide is the huge problem it is, have any way of explaining how? And the global warming thing, you know what? Thank you, Canada, for proving to us this isn't the worst. We've seen this before. Thank you, Tamo Engajewski, Bayol, et al. All these scientists have tried to figure this out. And they're not saying climate isn't changing. Because climate is changing. It's always been changing. Before humans walked this earth, the climate was changing. Might I remind people that there was a time that the surface temperature of Earth was so hot that plant life couldn't exist. Well, it's no more. I mean, got quite a lot of plant life at the moment. The fact that things are changing doesn't mean it's man-made. Before we start blaming people, let's start understanding things. Anyway, I'm trying to grow my channel, so criticism, as always, is more than welcome, but I'm really looking forward to hear what you think of this, what you think I could do better, what you think I did badly, and like, share and subscribe if you feel so inclined. I hope to see you all next time.